Hi, in this video we will discuss about regulatory data exclusivity or regulatory data protection exclusivity. So let us start with US. Regulatory data exclusivity in US. First is NCE or New Chemical Entity Data Exclusivity. Any new chemical entity approved for the first time in US is eligible for 5 years of NCE data exclusivity. During this 5 year of exclusivity, no generic version can be approved, but generic applications can be filed after 4 years, but approval will happen only after 5 years. NC exclusivity basically prevents a subsequent generic applicant from relying upon the data submitted by innovator company during 5 year period. NC exclusivity can be further extended by 6 months of pediatric exclusivity if pediatric exclusivity is granted by FDA. Next is additional clinical data exclusivity. If company submits new clinical data, new clinical investigation other than BAB or bioequivalence or bioavailability studies, then it is eligible for 3 years of additional or new clinical data exclusivity. So other company, they cannot rely on this new clinical data for the next 3 years to get generic approval. So this new clinical data may be related to like for new indication, maybe for new doses, new strength, new dosage form. Maybe earlier it was tablet, now they come up with injection or capsule, maybe new route of administration, or maybe for prescription to OTC switch studies. So if company files new clinical investigation on any of these, then it is eligible for 3 years of new clinical data exclusivity. And this new clinical data exclusivity can be further extended by 6 months of pediatric exclusivity if pediatric data is also submitted. Next is orphan drug exclusivity. Any drug which is approved for orphan or rare disease, then it is eligible for 7 years of orphan disease exclusivity. And definition of orphan disease is if there are less than 200,000 or 2 lakh patients in whole US for a particular disease, that will be called orphan disease. So if a company submits data for orphan disease and gets approval, it is eligible for 7 years of orphan disease exclusivity. But if even there are more than 2 lakh patients, even then a company can request FDA for orphan drug status. In that case, company or applicant can file for a justification that they will not be able to recover the drug development and manufacturing cost because patients are very less. FDA will not approve any other version of drug for this orphan indication for 7 years. However, it does not block approval of the same drug for different indication. Maybe the same drug is used for 3-4 indication. So only orphan indication is protected. Other indication may not be protected. So the same drug can be approved for other indication. And also, this exclusivity does not block approval of another version of drug which has shown or has offered clinical advantages over the approved drug. If a company, second company can show that my version of drug for the same orphan indication is showing better clinical efficacy or safety, better tolerability, or maybe it is providing convenience on patient in patient care. Maybe this second company has come up with the once daily doses instead of twice daily doses with their new formulation. So in that case, second version can be approved if it is showing clinical advantages. This orphan drug exclusivity can be extended by further 6 months in the form of pediatric exclusivity. If pediatric data is also submitted. There are exceptions to orphan drug exclusivity. FDA can approve second drug of same type during 7-year exclusivity if any of the below given conditions are met. Means if innovator cannot supply enough drug to meet the demand, then FDA can approve second drug. Or if innovator has consented that this second company can also market the same drug for same orphan indication, maybe through agreements or maybe through licensing. Or if FDA consider that the new drug, the second applicant came up with a new version which is showing clinical superiority. In that case also second drug can be approved during this 7 years. Next is pediatric exclusivity. If company submits the data in pediatric patients, then it is eligible for 6 months of pediatric exclusivity. This 6-month pediatric exclusivity is only add-on exclusivity which will be added to either marketing exclusivity or patent term, and it begins on or from the date of expiry of patent or from date of expiry of data exclusivity. So when patent expires, suppose patent is expiring in 2025, so the pediatric exclusivity if granted, it will start in 2025 and so on. Biologics or biological drugs are also eligible for pediatric exclusivity of 6 months, but condition is if FDA has sent a written request for conduction of pediatric studies based on assessment that biological drug is expected to benefit the pediatric population. Now let us discuss about biological drug exclusivity. Chemical drugs and biological drugs are very different. Biological drugs are very complex. So any biological drug approved for the first time in US is eligible for 12 years of biological drug exclusivity. When you compare it with the chemical drug is eligible for 5 years of NCE exclusivity if it is approved for the first time. So in case of chemical drug, exclusivity is for 5 years, but in case of biological drug, the exclusivity is for 12 years. So it is 12 years because biological drugs are very complex. The cost involved in the development of biological drug is much higher than the chemical drugs. So huge amount of data is to be generated. So huge resources are required, huge money is required. So that's why the exclusivity is also longer, 12 years instead of 5 years in case of chemical drugs. So during these 12 years, the generic version, which is called biosimilar, cannot be approved by US FDA. But after 12 years, the application or biosimilar can be approved. So biosimilar, which is generic version of biological innovator drug, can be approved after 12 years. And if this biological drug is proved to be interchangeable with the original reference drug, then it is also eligible for 1 year of exclusivity. But for that, the generic or biosimilar developing company has to prove in clinical studies that it is interchangeable with the innovator drug. The company has to do the clinical studies comparing their biosimilar version and innovator drug. And if they are found to have similar efficacy and safety, then they will be called interchangeable. And if it is approved interchangeable, then they can get 1 year of exclusivity for that biosimilar. Next is generic para 4 certification exclusivity. Any first successful generic para 4 applicant, if it is approved by US FDA, then it is eligible for 180 days of generic para 4 exclusivity. And during this 180 days, then second generic approval cannot happen. So for 6 months or 180 days, the generic company will have monopoly. So there are 4 different types of generic application like para 1, para 2, para 3 and para 4. We'll talk about these in details in another video. But para 4 application is basically when they are challenging, when the generic company is challenging the patents listed in the Orange Book. So in this case, the innovator company has listed the patents related to the product in Orange Book and they are still not expired. So they have not expired. So in that case, the generic company, what generic company does, they file the para 4 certification generic application in which they are challenging those patents listed in Orange Book. They are saying that my generic version is not infringing the patents listed in the Orange Book, or maybe those patents listed in the Orange Book are invalid or they are unenforceable. So they certified that my generic version is either not infringing those listed patents, or maybe those listed patents are invalid, or maybe those patents are unenforceable. So this para 4 application or journey till approval is very long journey. During this process, they have to certify to FDA that I am filing para 4 certification, I am challenging the patent, and they will send notice to the innovator company that I am challenging the patent and filing para 4 generic application. Then the innovator company then may sue the generic company within 45 days of notice, and then case goes to the court. Then court will decide whether those patents are invalid or infringed or not infringed, or whether they are enforceable or not. So based on court decision, if this happens, the innovator company goes to the court, then FDA grant 30 months stay. FDA will not approve the generic version till 30 months or till the court's decision is out. So based on court decision, then in this case, if court says that this generic applicant or generic product of this applicant is not infringing these patents, or if these patents are invalid or unenforceable, then based on that court decision, FDA will approve the para 4 generic application. And if it is approved, then it is eligible for 6 month or 180-day exclusivity. And during this 180-day exclusivity, no other generic version will be approved. So this generic company will have 6 months of monopoly, and it will earn huge revenues during these 6 months, because in the market only 2 version will be there, branded version and only one generic. So this 180-day exclusivity is applicable only for para 4 certified generic application, not for para 1 or para 2 or para 3. Basically in para 1 generic application, the applicant says that there are no listed patent in the Orange Book. In para 2 application, the applicant will say that the Orange Book patents, listed patent have expired, so I am not bothered about them. Then in para 3 certification, basically the generic company says that I will market my drug only after expiry of those patents listed in the orange book. And in para 4, as I have explained, the generic company will say that I am not infringing those patents, or those patents are either invalid or not unenforceable. They are unenforceable. They are not enforceable. Next is regulatory data exclusivity in Europe. There is a 8 plus 2 plus 1 year rule. If a product is approved in Europe for the first time, then it is eligible for 8 plus 2 plus maybe 1 extra year of data protection. 8 year is data exclusivity, during which generic company cannot even file the application. Then 2 years is marketing protection exclusivity, during which generic company can file generic application, but it will not be approved. Generic approval will happen only after 10 years. So there is a 8 plus 2 years, 8 years of data exclusivity, 2 years of market protection exclusivity. And there is a possibility of further 1 year of new indication exclusivity if the innovator company submits the data for new indication and it proves that there is a significant benefit seen with the new indication with their product. And if this new indication is approved during 8 years of data exclusivity before generic application filing, then only it is eligible for this 1 extra year of new indication exclusivity. Earlier in European countries, the data exclusivity in some countries it was for 6 years, in some countries it was for 10 years, but now it is harmonized period of protection in all European countries. The same 8 plus 2 plus 1 year rule applies to all European countries now. Next is orphan drug exclusivity in Europe. Any product which is approved for orphan or rare disease in Europe is eligible for 10 years of orphan drug exclusivity. And definition for orphan drug in Europe is if there are less than 5 patients per 10,000 population, then it is called orphan disease. And if company submits for that orphan disease indication, it is eligible for 10 year of orphan disease exclusivity. Even if there are more than 5 patients per 10,000 population, in that case also the applicant can request the regulatory agency for orphan drug status if they file a justification that they will not be able to recover the development and manufacturing cost for this indication. So in that case also, case by case, regulatory agency may grant orphan drug status. So if you compare orphan drug exclusivity in Europe, it is for 10 years, but in US it was for 7 years. So it is longer in Europe. And in many of the European countries, they reviews the sale data in the 6th year of exclusivity. And if they find that the drug is extraordinarily profitable, then product may lose the remaining 4 years of exclusivity. And again, this orphan drug exclusivity may be negative. That means another version of orphan, another version of drug may be approved for this orphan indication if the right holder cannot supply the demand, cannot meet the demand of the patient. In that case, the second version can be approved by regulatory agency, or if the right holder grants the permission to second company or other companies to manufacture and market the product, maybe through agreements or through licensing, etc. In that case also the second application can be approved by regulatory agency. Next is pediatric exclusivity. Pediatric exclusivity in Europe if pediatric clinical data is submitted as per pediatric investigation plan or PIP plan. So in that case, 6 months of exclusivity is added to SPC or Supplementary Protection Certificate. SPC is the 5, which may be a maximum up to 5 years, which may be granted if there is a delay in regulatory approval of the product by regulatory agency in Europe. So if pediatric study data is also submitted, that 5 year may become 5 year and 6 months, or maybe if you granted for 3 year only, then it will become 3 year and 6 months. But in case of orphan disease, if pediatric data is submitted, then 2 year extra of pediatric exclusivity is granted, and it is added to orphan drug exclusivity. So it will become 10 plus 2 years. So that's all in this discussion. Thank you very much.